How can speaking with true intention toward ourselves and others not only calm the ego, but nourish the spirit? Today on the Today's the Day Changemakers podcast, I'm joined by Kalyani Pardeshi, a multi-award-winning author, TEDx speaker, and Canada's only certified Flowcess Trainer. Kalyani helps people embrace their true selves by identifying and dissolving two often ignored causes of burnout: self-bullying and living outside their intrinsic motivators. Her powerful book, Beyond the Inner Critic, Understanding and Conquering Your Conscious and Unconscious Bullies, won the International Impact Award for Self-Help within 4 months of publication. She's been featured on CTV Morning Live, Global News Calgary, and QR Calgary Radio, and continues to inspire schools, organizations, and communities across North America. Today's episode dives into how seemingly harmless jokes or offhand comments, especially when directed inward, can do lasting harm. Kalyani shares how both external bullying and the inner critic shaped her journey, and how presence, self-awareness, and accountability can become tools for personal and collective healing. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to the Today's the Day Changemakers YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Today is the Day, Live It. Today is the Day is more than this podcast. It's a movement rooted in clarity, courage, connection, and impact. Through coaching and consulting, I help individuals and teams find clarity of focus, the courage to move forward, and the connections that lead to growth. Whether you're leading a mission, launching a vision, or navigating change, I help you build the kind of network that lifts you up and supports the impact you're meant to create. And be sure to save the date for the Today's the Day Changemakers International Forum on October 23rd, where global voices come together to embrace transformation and inspire action. Go to todayisthedayliveit.com. Let's get to this incredible conversation, because today is the day. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Today's the Day Changemakers podcast. I'm your host, Jody Grunwald, and as I say, every single episode, I introduce and interview the changemakers, the inspirers, and those who are disrupting the status quo in the best way possible. And today, I have Kalyani Pardeshi. Hi, how are you, Kalyani?
I'm well, thank you, and thank you for saying my name right. I really appreciate it.
Yay! Yeah, and you know, I have to bring it up because you said that right before this podcast. Kalyani and I were talking, and I said I want to get your name right because mine is Grinwald, and they mess it up. It's Griswold, like vacation. It's Greenwald. It's Grunwald. So I can't imagine what they do to your name. Share what you shared because I think it's very important.
So I was raised in South Africa, and I tried so desperately to fit in, and it's kind of what we're going to be talking about today a little bit. And people would just say, "Oh, can I call you insert nickname?" And I was so desperate to be accepted because it was apartheid South Africa. And, I was not going to be accepted on my skin color, so I needed to change something to be accepted. And so I accepted that, and a lot of people still run with that nickname, and I have to tell them, thank you, but I actually go by my full name, Kalyani, and there's a reason for it because my name means blessing in Sanskrit.
Oh, I love that. Yes. Yes. And you were saying also your children, right? If they don't, you're teaching them, tell everybody what you're teaching them about their names.
So with my kids, their names are not easy to pronounce, but both of them have Sanskrit names. One means unique, the other means tranquil. And I've told them, can I help you say my name right? I remember sitting in a parent-teacher interview with one particular teacher who kept mispronouncing my son's name. And I just looked at her and I said, would it be okay if I help you say his name right? And she was, oh, I didn't know I was saying it wrong. So instead of saying, making an accusatory statement, saying you're saying my name wrong, people immediately get defensive. Just say, can I help you say my name right?
Yeah.
I would like to help you with that.
Look at that. You're training people already from the moment you started on this podcast. So thank you. It's wonderful to have you. I'm so glad we've met, and I'm going to share a little of your bio, and then we're going to get into a great conversation. Kalyani is TEDx speaker, multi-award-winning author, and Canada's only certified Flowcess Trainer?
Flowcess.
Flowcess Trainer. She helps people embrace their true selves by identifying and dissolving too underrated, I can't read today, underrated causes of burnout, self-bullying, and operating outside their intrinsic motivators. Her latest book, Beyond the Inner Critic, won the International Impact Award. Ooh, I love it. It's right there. For self-help. If you're watching me, the YouTube channel, you got a flash of the book. Within 4 months of its publication, she's been featured on CTV, Morning Live, Global News Calgary, and QR Calgary Radio. And there's a whole list of things here, but I'll just read a few. You've spoken at the Calgary Military Family Resource Center, Association of Administrative Professionals, Excuses to Connect, Gloves Not Guns, Peer Mediation and Skills Training, presented at Bridging the Gap, Effective Strategies for Working with Difficult Teens and Breaking the Cycle, Understanding and Effectively Addressing Bullying at both the Calgary Teachers Convention and the Palliser School District Convention. Sound right?
That's perfect.
Now, I could have gone on, but we're going to stop there. No, because
I've been accused of having a laundry list of places I've presented. It's not a laundry list. It's literally my bio.
And that leads me to, and it goes into our conversation actually, is that it is okay to share the good things that we do because we focus in, or other people focus in very easily on the things they don't like about us or that they think we do incorrectly, right?
Absolutely. And
I think so that's why, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. No, and that's, I think one of the most important things is like, if someone is doing something incorrectly, invite them to share why. Why do you think this is wrong? It's a story, I think it's a blog post I wrote where I was actually bullied by the head of an anti-bullying organization after they watched my TEDx talk. And they told me that I was using the word bullying to get attention because I talked about the concept of self-bullying. Now, Flowcess teaches us how our minds and brains work. And based on that, there are two levels that I talk about. I talk about the inner critic, and then I talk about how we're responding to that inner critic. And this stuff is not looked into before, but if you look at how the brain functions, what I'm saying isn't wrong. So, I said, okay, you know what? If I'm wrong, I'm willing to admit it. So please tell me, what is your definition for the word bullying? And they were not able to give me a definition, and that conversation ended. My whole point is help me understand you. If I'm wrong, great. Let me understand what you're saying. Now, if you cannot explain yourself, then how can you tell me that I'm wrong when I'm very good at explaining myself?
Really valid point. And I always say, if we're in the midst of a conflict situation, coming from a place of being inquisitive is always the best way to diffuse it, right?
Yes, I love that you say that, because one of the things I say, well, I'm curious to know. I'm curious to know. I mean, I'll give you another example. My son is being mentored by one of the members of the Flowcess team. And I guide him from a day-to-day basis. So yesterday he was sharing how one of his teachers, so a quick thing about our brains is that we cannot stay focused for an extended period of time because we literally burn the focus circuits in our brain. And that's what causes burnout. And a lot of people think, it's got to focus. You're going to burn yourself out from too much focus, right?
Right.
So what he does is he'll focus and then he'll take a break. And he was taking a break at this particular time. And the teacher says, oh, you're not motivated, etc., etc., etc. So I taught my son to ask his teacher, number one, does he believe one size fits all? Second question is, based on that, what is his definition for motivation? And what is his measure for motivation? And then, if one size does not fit all, is it fair for him to assess my son's level of motivation based on the teacher's measures? Would that be fair?
I love it. We have, the kind of the same thought process without even realizing it. We've just met, but we hit it off from the moment we started chatting, because we are all originals. We can't guess how another person feels, even if they've been in the exact same situation. You know,
Exactly.
you have people that have gotten married, people who have gotten divorced, people have all these things that are similar, the same, maybe even at the same location they've got, but what the process was to get there, what their emotions were, what the stress levels were so different, right? They have same positions, people who are accountants and doctors, not the same people, just the same profession. So we always want to feel, I feel like, that we want to be part of community, but part of community also means it's okay to be like-minded but different.
Yes, and I love that you mentioned that because now I'm going to go into a I'm going to get on my soapbox. So
No, I'm
excuse
ready.
me.
I'm ready. This is good. This is good.
So what we forget is yes, we can be a part of a community, but we need to bring our individuality to that community. Now, what individuality means to me, and the best way I can demonstrate this is let's say you and I go to a car dealership. We buy the exact same car, same model, same make, same color, everything on the same day. We both drive out of the dealership in our identical cars. Tell me, after a year of both of us driving our individual cars, will your car look like mine?
No.
No. Why? Because we drive differently. And what people are forgetting or not addressing, rather, and sadly, psychology does not address this either, is that we are that individual, authentic self that's driving the car, which is our brain. So now it's going to look different for different people. For me, what my individuality is, what intrinsically motivates me, regardless of any situation, is how can I bear someone's pain
Mm-hmm.
so that they can grow? What actions do I need to take to help them with that pain so they can actually look past the pain and focus on the actions they need to take to grow? Now, that's the individuality, the thought process, my car, my brain. How I can get it wrong is in an extremely destructive thought process, I'm going to Hulk out. So when I was a child, because I was bearing so much pain with no outlet, I used to have temper tantrums. And the process of calming this temper tantrums, whatever was done, was known as taming of the shrew. In a less unhealthy thought process, I'm going to enable other people because I don't want to see them in pain. So I'm trying to stop their pain in one step. In a
Right.
very healthy thought process, what I'm going to do is I'm going to confront people on whatever behaviors are holding them back to address those behaviors, to understand who they are, to repair all of that so that they can move forward. So I'm actually administrating what I call pain of growth. I'm not causing suffering, but I'm going to bring tension. Tension is applied pressure. I'm going to bring tension to help you see where you could be going wrong. That's what this book is actually all about. We talk about so many motivational behaviors, like we talk about the underdog, we talk about being an overachiever, we talk about all of those things, but are we actually bullying ourselves? Are we motivating ourselves? I was an overachiever, but I was burning out because I was trying to find my worth and value in what I did and not who I was. The minute I switched that, I stopped chasing achievement. It's like if this happens, okay. If it doesn't happen, okay. I'm all right with it. Every time
Yes.
I'm going after the next achievement, my first question is, am I doing this from a place of who I am, my intrinsic motivators, or am I doing it because I want to find my worth and value in what I do? Our worth and value comes from who we are, and our purpose comes from who we are, not what we do.
Yeah, I'm like sitting here ready to jump out of my seat because I am all about the fact that we wear our title as a mask.
Yes.
And it's like, we in society, and I say this, we always like, hi, my name is Jody. Oh, what do you do?
Yeah.
Well, wouldn't it be nice to say, oh, tell me about yourself? I'm a
Yes.
compassionate, empathetic, communicative, whatever, like, whatever adjectives, whatever you want to describe yourself, but we're a mom, we're this, we always have a
Yes.
title.
Yes, exactly. And I love that you say that because I went down a very dark hole when I quit my CPA career. I want to say 16 years ago. And, I was just a mom. How was I bringing value? How was I, um, making a difference in the world? even as a CPA, I was doing something for someone. But ultimately, I think what made the difference is I had to go down that dark hole of severe depression. And to come out of that hole, it took years. It took so long. And part of enabling other people was me using my gifts. We call them spiritual gifts. We call them intrinsic motivators, uniqueness, intangible drivers. These are all interchangeable terms for what I'm talking about. And there's a quiz on my website to determine yours, by the way.
Oh, I love it. I'll have to take it. I'm looking forward to it.
And ultimately, when we use these gifts that we've been given by our creator in an unhealthy way, we're doing it for our own benefit. We're supposed to use these gifts for the benefit of other people. So that we talked about community. How do I help my community grow? By bringing my individuality, my gifts to serve others, not to serve myself.
100%, 100%. And I want to say that I always say too, those titles are armors. That's the armor, can't break through. But I'm also going to share something. And I think society, and I'm going to go backwards in a few minutes about, and we're going to get into your whole program and how you wound up doing a TEDx, because I really want to have that conversation and why you did that. But I really want to share this because of what you said. So in society, hitting that CEO, C-suite, getting to that level, everybody's like, we're chugging along, we're climbing the ladder, right? Everybody's doing that. So I'm going to give you an example, and I want, and in this example, I want you to kind of share, because there's probably people out there that have this example, and I would love to hear your feedback on this. So for instance, having a big title with a very large organization, right? And you get a lot of respect because you're in an organization that is well known. You leave that organization, you start something of your own, and now you're CEO, entrepreneur of your own organization. The same respect, you go to networking meetings in both of those roles. The respect of you being that entrepreneur, that person who started something, took a leap of faith, right? No best practices, no timeline, no support. You still do not get the same respect as you did when you were XYZ of this big company. So I am on this mission, and I feel like you are as well in your own way, to change that way that's looked, because we are not as a society looking at that correctly. Can you share your thought process on that and how we can look at that differently?
So my first thought is the definition of respect. What is your definition of respect, right? A lot of people will say, oh, I want others to treat me the way I treat them. The true definition of respect, and I call it non-contradictory, is to treat other people how they want to be treated. So what that means is I'm treating them in their uniqueness, in their individuality, in their, and I'm going to go down a rabbit hole, I'm sorry, in their uniqueness, their intangible drivers. So I'll give you a classic example. My son gains a ton of energy from teaching. So he will teach me, like on the drive to school today, he was telling me about the different kinds of drugs and, why they known as suppressants, why they known as stimulants, and how can you help someone? He's teaching me all this stuff. How do we normally react? It's like, oh, this is so boring, right? Like, why are you telling me this? But I'm treating him with respect by treating him how he wants to be treated. He's teaching me. So I'm asking him questions. I am listening. He quizzes me. I answer him. I cannot tell you the number of times he tells me, it's so much fun talking to you. It is so much fun talking to you. Ultimately, that's what we want to do with the CEOs that shift positions. It's about knowing who you are and building confidence in that. So regardless of how other people treat you, you maintain that respect for yourself because you know who you are. You know who you are. And I always say there, and I've written about it in my book as well, that there are only 4 strategies for happiness. Strategy number 1 is when you need to see someone else's downfall for you to be happy. So you need your boss to get fired. That's what's going to make you happy. right? The second strategy for happiness is I just want to sit on the beach and drink Mai Tais. I want to retire. I want to win the lottery. I don't want to have any stress or tension in my life. The third strategy for happiness is what's my next achievement? I'm going to be happy when I get there. Fun fact, spoiler alert, I never got happy doing that. I burnt myself out. It's like as soon as I got that achievement, it was such an anticlimax. And the fourth and the most sustainable form of happiness or strategy for happiness is to approach every situation in your uniqueness. And when you address everything in your uniqueness, it just settles. So for me, I cannot, or I found a way to handle it is a better way to say. What I used to struggle with is superficial conversations. Like, don't tell me about how much money you made. Don't tell me about the vacation you went on. Don't tell me about this restaurant that you ate at. You can tell me that stuff, but after a while, I'm going to be bored and it's going to drain my energy. So I will ask questions that leads people to share their feelings because I want people to share their feelings with me. So I will say, oh, tell me about that vacation. How were the interactions between your family members? Like, did you get in each other's faces or was it all cool and flowing? What was that like? Tell me about the restaurant. What food did you enjoy? Like, what sort of tastes did you get? Like, did you share food across the table? What sort of feelings were generated? Talk to me about the feelings. I want to hear about the feelings. Ultimately, I think the biggest hole human beings fall into is we're trying to find our worth and value outside of us in the next big thing that we do, in trying to make a mark, in trying to have, so many likes on your last post, so many comments on your last post, etc. And my whole point is that is what you're essentially doing is giving power over your happiness to everyone outside of you. Do you want other people to control your happiness?
It's such a good point, and I appreciate your answer on that because it truly is. There's so many times that we are reliant outside of ourselves for that happiness and that superficialness and that adrenaline rush and that dopamine rush. And it is, and I know for myself, I spend so many years and still I have to catch myself because there's moments where I'm like looking for that yes from someone.
Right.
And right. And that'll give me more value or give me, and it's not about me. I feel like we don't realize how ego spaced we are sometimes.
Yes.
And I was just talking to a client about this. When you truly come from an authentic way and you're really coming in service to the other person and not to yourself, that should to me is the most fulfilling thing is to see somebody else happy from what I give. I know you're the same way. And I think that also we have to give to ourselves. And I know I want to go back in time with you a little bit now.
Before we do,
go right ahead.
before I just, a thought popped into my head and I definitely want to share it. So how do we handle the no's? We've always heard, oh, failure's first attempt in learning, keep knocking on doors and this, but every no takes like a gut punch. It does. Let's not deny it. It feels awful. Like I have been getting a whole bunch of no's right now, and I'm actually okay with it because there's a reason for it. And my mentor, John Lenhart, shared this with me, and it's the only thing that's ever made sense to me. So my definition of justice is everything will equal out in the end. So when someone says no to me, they are losing the value they would have gotten from working with me. They're going to get value from working with someone else, and the difference in that value is going to come to me. All I need to do is forgive them. And what forgive means, non-contradictory definition, again, it's all in my book, is a statement of my will that I will not equal out my own justice, even if I had the opportunity to do so. I love this definition because it allows me to be upset, it allows me to be angry, but it prevents me from taking any action on that anger and that hurt. And when I talk about preventing any action, what I mean is even if I come to you after I've heard a no and I speak badly of that organization, that is still equaling out my own justice because now I'm trying to make you think badly about that organization. So if we want to vent, stick to the facts. You know what? I reached out to these people. They said no. I feel upset. That's it. You know, I always, every no I get, I always say, thank you so much. I really appreciate your honesty. Should the situation change, feel free to reach out. And people really take that well.
Yes, yeah, I agree with that. And the I statements, right? We come from the I statements, and also they're all learning experiences. I have this whole thing about reinventing the no's, and sometimes the other thing I'll do too is that if they're not the right client, I ask them who they can introduce me to because their no could lead to 5 yeses from people that they
Yes.
know.
Yes. I love that. I love that. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, and that is honestly, we sometimes, and I see this in networking now, I'm going to go down another hole here, is that I see this in networking events, right? You're talking to somebody, you and me may be having a conversation, and then you look, I'm not saying you do this, but you would look over here and you see John Smith, Jane Smith over here, who you've been trying to reach, who hasn't gotten back to you. Now you're no longer in our conversation.
No.
You're
Yeah.
over there. And
Yes.
now I'm thinking I have less worth because you're
Right?
more interested in that person over there.
Exactly.
And that's a hard thing. So it is all about really staying in the conversation, but and also when you're in that conversation, if it's not going the way you want it to, how can you turn it around? And I always say the key is in the follow-up, even when you get a no,
Right.
just staying,
Exactly.
keep making friends, keep and doing it authentically. I say this so many times because I know so many sales people out there. They come from, and I was just with somebody that I'm training, and they come from the sales space that is not about service. It's about
No.
sales. And if it's about
Yes.
the salesperson, the person across the table doesn't care about that. They care about what they need.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
yeah. So going back to, you grew up in South Africa, you shared that. But, you and I had our pre-call. It wasn't the easiest, right? There were some things that happened in your childhood, and I want you to share that. It's part of exactly the reason you had your TED Talk, and we'll get into the TED Talk as well. But if you can kind of take us a little bit on your journey of childhood up until you kind of moved here into the United States.
So, I was born in Zambia, which is Central Africa, and when I was around 10 years old, we moved to South Africa during the peak of apartheid. So, I think one of the things that, and I understand a lot of parents do this, is we want to protect our children, right? But we should not protect our children from the pain of growth. I grew up in a time where, and I'm sure a lot of people my age that could relate to it, is where kids were shamed into better behavior. And ultimately, what happens is we have so much shame around that behavior that we change out of fear of, not wanting to be shamed over it. So I was not smart. Um, I was a picky eater. I was a fussy child. I think I knew from a very young age what I wanted, um, or what was right. I knew right from wrong. And the one thing I couldn't handle was injustice. And I felt a lot of things that were happening were so unjust around me. I was made fun of for not being smart. I was made fun of um, because I was a picky eater. I was very particular about the kinds. I would have certain clothes that would itch that I hated wearing, and I would literally have for lack of a better word, a hissy fit over it. And every single time is like I was teased, and I was made fun of. And, when I tried to protest that, I was told, oh, we just, we love you and we like seeing your reaction and it's so cute and it's so funny. Okay, it's cute and funny for you, but do you understand what it's doing to me? Right? When I trained with Flowcess, I began to understand that there are no zero events to our brain. everything we're doing is either hurting our brain or helping our brain. So one of the trauma triggers I needed to work on was joking, being teased, being made fun of. Um, and when that would happen, um, you know, many years later, that's what made me pursue overachievement. Is like, okay, if I do this, then they will shut up. If I do this, then they will shut up. So that's what I mean about, I talk in my book Beyond the Inner Critic is where does this inner critic come from? And one of the sources is guilt, right? And I'm going to talk about that separately. The other source, I mean, there are four sources, but I'm just going to focus on two for this one, is what other people, our environment, what do people say about us? And when I talk about self-bullying is how are we responding with positive behaviors to silence that inner critic or the external critics that's actually burning us out. On the surface, I looked so successful. Like in university, I was InterVarsity Queen finalist. I was second runner up. I wouldn't say I graduated with the best marks, but I graduated, got the job, sports. I was like ranked second at university on my badminton team. So I did the sports, I did the beauty, I did the education, I did all of that. But nobody ever said to me, we're proud of you. And that's the thing, more than anything, children look for that affirmation from their parents. And I will tell you right off the bat, when it comes to affirming my children, I affirm them on doing the hard things the right way. I had to catch myself teasing my daughter and say, wait a minute, I didn't like that, so why am I doing that to her? Mm-hmm. The biggest cause of depression is contradictions. And how do you determine your contradictions is asking yourself that question. What is it something other people do that you don't like? And do you do that to other people? Mm-hmm. And that's what I was doing. Now, I want to quickly slide in here with guilt because this was something I taught my son the other day. He's having friendship issues with one particular friend, and he says, I feel guilty. So I said to him, okay, I'm going to teach you something, and I want you to tell me which guilt you're feeling, because there's guilt as a cause and there's guilt as an effect. Guilt as a cause is telling someone, or telling your child, I'm your mom, you owe it to me to do this and that, I did so much for you, don't you feel anything for me? That's guilt as a cause. That's using guilt to manipulate somebody, right? And to any child who's listening and their parent says that, I'm going to give you the definition of love. You tell your parent, love means giving without expecting anything in return from the person whom you gave to. If you are expecting something from me in return, that means this is a contract. It's not love. So that's guilt as a cause, that's manipulation. Guilt as an effect is if I do something wrong and I hurt somebody. That's guilt as an effect because I don't want to be treated that way and I went and treated someone that way. And to get over guilt as an effect, you have to do four things. Admit you were wrong, state why you did it, say you don't want to do it again, and ask how you can make up for it. That's also in my book. So I asked my son, I said, which one are you feeling? He said, Mom, it's the first one, guilt as a cause. So I said, well, that's manipulation. Now, do you want to be manipulated? No. So what are we going to do going forward? So one of the biggest things with this friend, he has an issue is that he makes vile jokes. I can't even call them rude. I can't even call them crude. They're vile. So I said to him, you can use communication guidelines, which is also in my book, shamelessly promoting my book here.
And it's okay. That's what it's for.
And I said to him, you can tell him, you can say, you know what? I really want to be friends with you. I do. I don't want to ditch you because I don't like being ditched. And for that to happen, these vile jokes have to stop. Are you able to do that for me or not? So everything's I statements. It's not a you statement. Even like these vile jokes, not your vile jokes. These vile jokes have to stop. And then a question, are you able to do that? Is this friendship important enough to you for you to do that?
And you didn't use the but in there either.
And I always say and. No buts, because the other person's going to get defensive. This friendship is important to me, and I want to continue with it. I don't want to ditch you.
I love that. I love all of this. And it's interesting. I have to go back to something you said before,
Yes.
and it triggered me in a good way, but it's in a bad situation too, is those trauma triggers. And I'm thinking to myself, it really, as a child, got under my skin when my
Yeah.
family, and even to this day, they start making fun in a fun way
Oh,
of of things that I don't think are funny or that,
yes.
are about me. Like I'm a klutz. And I know that, right? I'm just using this as an example.
Right.
And I drop stuff all the time. And some days are klutzier than others. But I don't love doing that. I don't love dropping things at the supermarket and tomatoes literally went all over the other day, which is fine.
Oh,
But yeah, exactly. Instead of having that reaction, it's like, somebody just turning away and kind of ignoring it and being like embarrassed for themselves, not to help you. So, I exactly. So I kind of like, and then joke about it later. So that is definitely something. I don't know that everybody pays attention to those trauma triggers and realize that's what they are.
that's exactly what they are. If I may share some advice on the situation, right?
Please.
So what we always say is whatever triggers you, you got to bring it down to a principle level. And so when people make fun of you, it's being disrespectful. So we take the principal level of disrespect, and the reason we do this is because then it covers more than just the trauma trigger. It's going to cover other triggers because the baseline is disrespect. And then you have options. Do you want to ask a question? Do you want to ask for help? Do you want to walk away? Or just say to the person, you know what, I forgive you for saying that to me. And again, remember the definition of forgive is I'm not gonna equal out my own justice. Even if you give me the opportunity and you're a klutz, I'm not gonna say it to you. If you want to ask a question, I would just say, you know, how does saying that help me? How does it help me? Well, no, I'm just making fun. You know what? I may not be as smart as you are. Can you explain the joke to me? And the minute you try to get someone to explain the joke, it's like they have to stop and think. Like, there's another one I taught my daughter when people really make these statements, right? Just look at them. Just pause and look at them. And you'll see them scramble. Say, well, I didn't read it that way. Well, blah, blah, blah. So you can always say, help me understand. What's the goal in saying that to me? What's the point? What are you trying to achieve? What are you hoping to achieve? And so what's funny? What's the joke? Another thing you would say, so do you think it's right to make fun of someone, to make jokes at the expense of someone else? Would it be okay if I did that to you?
And we're all guilty of it. I can't, I'll raise my hand. I've done it. I've done it to my kids too, not meaning to hurt them, but
No,
thinking,
that's
oh,
not the
they're gonna,
intention.
yeah, it's not premeditated.
No.
But then you look back and you're like, ooh, they're not. And I used to say this. I said, if I'm not laughing, it's not funny. I used to say that to them. Like, if I'm not laughing, it's not
It's
funny. If
not
they would
funny.
make fun, if they would make fun of me. And that was kind of the joke too, back.
Yes.
But looking back and hearing all of this, I'm in the midst of reading your book myself, and I'm grateful that it's out there. Where can people find it since we've been talking about it so much now?
It's on Amazon, and I don't know if I sent you the link or not. If you want to put it with the show
I
notes,
will.
okay. And it's on my website too, kalyanispeaks.com.
Awesome. And just a quick thing too, how do people find you besides the website? Are you on social?
I am on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, and I am on Instagram at Kalyani Speaks 049. And everywhere else, I'm
Awesome.
Kalyani Pardeshi.
I love it. I love it. So let's talk about the evolution of what happened to you as a child and how things evolved to get you to where you are today.
So I got into this habit of overachieving, and it was like, I'll be happy with my next achievement. So when I quit my career, it's like, what am I going to achieve next, right? Um, my son had a lot of health issues. I mean, he still battles certain things, but they're manageable. But when he was little, it was really hard, and I was going through my own depression. It was exceptionally hard. So if I say it's fair to say I went into a dark hole for 2 years, I isolated. And here's something I want to share with all people tuning in is you cannot grow in isolation. We need people around us to grow, to help us grow. All isolation does is slows down the loss of energy. You're still going to be losing energy. It just slows it down. So I isolated for 2 years. And then in 2013, I started working out because I remember I used to play badminton. It used to make me feel good. So what I was trying to do is fix my depression with working out. I ended up losing 22 pounds. I was working out at home, doing everything on my own. And then I found a fitness community. I joined that online on Facebook. And, I shared my results. So I decided to go into fitness coaching. And so this is the part again, we're talking about the driver car analogy where I was not driving my brain according to my individuality. When I got into fitness coaching, I burnt out within 2 years. And I had a group of over 2,000 women that I had to say goodbye to, and I had to shut it all down because I burnt out. I was driving my brain according to an intangible driver known as an exhorter. Exhorters like to get you excited about the future. They're really good at making you feel excited. That's not my uniqueness. My uniqueness is compassion. I'm there to bear your pain. But you need to figure out the way forward. I will take away the pain so you can see the way forward. I will ask you questions so that you can see the way. I may be able to see it, but it's not my place to tell you the way forward. I will ask you questions so you will get to that answer by yourself. And so I ended up driving my brain according to an exhorter, and I burnt out. So this is what's so important to know your intangible drivers, your uniqueness. So everything shut down, and then I isolated it for another year. So after that year, I remember attending an anti-bullying workshop. And this is a piece I did not share. When I was in South Africa, the only way to get an education that was not determined by my skin color was to send me away to boarding school in another country where I was severely bullied. And I had to leave after a year and a half because I couldn't handle the bullying. So I attend this anti-bullying workshop at my daughter's elementary school because I was curious to learn. What are they teaching differently that I didn't do all those years ago? Could I have stopped that bullying? And to my utter disappointment, nothing had changed. Nothing had changed. I think what made it worse was they had people share stories of how bullying made them a recluse. So I was sitting there thinking, what if the kids here that are being bullied and they now see that they're going to be recluses in their future, that there's no future for them? How would they feel? So I tried to connect with this organization to present my story of where I was bullied, but then I still went on and I still did not see the overachievement as bullying. It was like, yay, I achieved all these things. I didn't become a recluse. And they came up with excuses not to let me share my story. So I decided to write a book, and that was the first book that I wrote, and it won 3 international awards. But I still couldn't get these teachings into schools. And I think I posted a video about a week ago sharing the story with my former high school of why I didn't get in. So I tried. I think I must have tried 5 different platforms to teach this information. They said no. Let's talk about no's here again. I I think I had applied at the teachers convention 3 times. It was declined, but there was a reason for it. There was, and again, I talk about this in my book, is why things don't work out. So in my case, it was because I still needed to learn and grow in the area of anti-bullying. So what I ended up, and it's interesting how it worked out because I met John Lenhart of Flowcess in August 2022. And I said, wait, I now suddenly have the right information, right? Um, and I can use this information. So I applied to the teachers convention. I got declined again. Why? Because I had only scratched the surface of the information. I still needed to learn it fully. So then what ended up happening is when I started learning more about how our brains work, how our authentic self presents itself through our brain in different thought processes, I realized that everything I was doing, overachieving, being that underdog, being so toxically positive, there are 15 behaviors. I can't even list them out right now when I think about them. But when I looked at these behaviors, I said, I've been bullying myself. So I talked to John about it and I said, John, I want to write a book. You know, can you help me? And he said, sure. So we created like I wrote the book and then he did a second level run through, not the first run through. I lovingly share this fact that, and I'm going to come back to the anti-bullying, I promise. Um, I had 18 beta readers, and out of 18, 10 of them quit. Not because of the way the book was written, but it was because it was too hard of a look at themselves. It was too, because we're still trying to rationalize our unhealthy behaviors. This is the only way I feel motivated. There was a time when I only felt motivated if I was proving other people wrong. So last year when I applied for the teachers conventions, I sent in 6 proposals and the last proposal, the one that was least on my priority list, was the anti-bullying one. And I just want to, sorry, I'm hopping all over the place, but I had another mentor who tried to help me get this anti-bullying information out to the world, and she sent my course information to her 19,000 subscribers. No one signed up. No one signed up. There was another platform where I'd applied to teach and they approved it. Nobody showed up for my classes. So when I submitted this proposal to the teachers convention, I was expecting it to get rejected. Not only did it get approved, it was at full capacity at both conventions. And I got to present at the convention center, which was like one of my dream locations to ever present. So it was just that I needed to grow in a certain area, grow in the information. So if you get a no, don't be afraid to take that hard look at yourself and say, do I need to be humble and see another perspective and learn the right information? And that's what made the difference is I had that humility. It's like, wait a minute, what I'm teaching in my book doesn't really help. I need to develop this further. And that's what I did.
Wow, that's it. I love. Thank you. That took us very much on a journey, and congratulations on getting into the teachers convention. That's
Thank
amazing
you.
and incredible. And I understand, you have that vision of which stage you want to be on, because I know I do too. And you've been on one of the ones that are on my bucket list, a TEDx stage. But it's incredible. It takes a tremendous amount of perseverance,
Yes.
motivation, and determination. And people that are listening may think to themselves, I can't be like Kalani. I don't have that, Kalyani. I don't have that ability. What do you say to them?
Don't be like me. Don't be like me because that's my uniqueness. Go to my website, determine your uniqueness, and figure out. Come reach out to me, and I will tell you what it's going to look like in the different thought processes. Let's repair your thought process so that you can do you in your uniqueness in a healthy thought process, and you'll be able to do it.
I love that. Hey, that was definitely that's great. I love that answer. It's a great answer. But let's talk about this TED Talk, because what was it titled? Where can people watch it? And let's talk about how you got there.
Um, so it's called Are You Motivating Yourself or Bullying Yourself? Unveiling the Masks. So it's available on YouTube. I've posted it on my website. And if you go to my Facebook, it's the thing that's pinned right at the top of the news feed or whatever you want to call it these days, a profile, whatever. And again, this is another area that I would love to talk about is I got no's. And why did I get no's? Is because I needed to grow in this information. So I first reached out to the curator, I believe it was January, 2022. And they were having an event in March, but then that was the time the pandemic was still on and off, on again, off again. And they had to postpone the event to October. And then what ended up happening in October is when I followed up, the curator shared that he was going through personal problems due to which they had to postpone the event to the following year, May. And I was getting really frustrated. And John said to me, we talk about divine timing. So part of divine timing is, do I have all the right information? So the piece, and it's interesting, this was 2022, and I met John in August of 2022. And that's when I was talking about self-bullying behaviors, like that's the missing piece. The missing piece is I have been trying to find my worth and value in what I do. And when that gets taken away from you, you lose it. A classic example is when people get let go from their jobs. When they retire, they lose it because they don't know who they are. And that was the missing piece in my talk. And when I got that missing piece, I randomly got an email in February 2023 from the curator, and he said, let's tease out this idea. And we talked about it. And I said, you know what? I think it's a go. And I signed the papers and I showed up in May.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so I can't imagine what it's like to get on that stage and at a TED Talk and in that moment when you walk up there. It has to be, and I want to hear your experience. I have this vision of what I'm going to feel. I feel like probably numb will be the first thing, but I would love to know, what is that feeling like when you get up there?
So, one of the things we teach at Flowcess is to determine your unique flowcess. That is your process to flow. So, it is healthy to toggle between self-regulation and the creative thought process. And that process is called flow. Flow is not a thought process. It's toggling between self-regulation and creative. Um, I remember when I wrote the post out and when I got it, I have my flow cess. So for me to flow, I need to be down to one thought. We talk about our flow hurdles. Mine is focus. If I have too many thoughts going, I will not flow. So I got there, I practiced one last time, and that's the thing, you gotta let it go. We talk about giving up control, you gotta let it go. So I practiced one more time and then I let it go. I met with other speakers, I was talking to them and everything. And then because one speaker went over time, mine kept getting delayed. But it was like, okay, I can get angry about this or just think, okay, there's a reason why this is happening. I remember getting mic'd up. I'm not gonna lie, I was nervous. I was butterflies and everything.
Of course.
And, they brought me downstairs via elevator and I was sitting off stage and I could see the audience and it was a massive audience and I noticed a cable on the floor. I noticed somebody tripped on it. So I had to tell myself, okay, when you walk, step over the cable. When you walk, step over the cable. And then I remember walking up, standing on that red dot. I looked down for a second and then I looked up and I paused and then I just smiled. Before I even started, I just smiled. And then when I started speaking, I remember we did not get to practice with my slides the day before for the rehearsal, so I fumbled a bit with my slides. They actually edited it out. But I remember you know, pausing and then carrying on and got back into flow. And then what happened is like as I was speaking, one of the things I tried to do is like I was looking at people. Like I'm talking to you personally. I'm having a conversation with you. And I didn't know this because I was like in my zone, but when I finished talking, there was so many people crying. There were so many people crying. And I walked off stage and I got a standing ovation from a few of the audience members. And I hugged the curator and he said, you did really well. Now, I did not know the other co-curator was calling me back on stage. I laugh. I always say, I walked off like a diva because he wanted me to acknowledge the audience. And for 7 hours afterwards, I had people coming to me, crying, hugging me, telling me how much my story resonated, just in awe is the best way I can say. I remember even when I tried to leave because my husband and kids bought me a chocolate fudge cake. I love chocolate cake. To
Hmm.
celebrate at home, and it was I spoke just before lunch, so around I would say 11:30, 11:45. One of the things I distinctly remember is they had a timekeeper holding the time up, and I knew I wasn't supposed to go past a certain time, but she did not want to stop me, so she put it face down.
Wow.
Yeah, she put it face down so that I could continue. I even noticed her do that. And I remember posting about it, and she commented, she goes, I did not want to interrupt you. It was, I wanted you to keep going. Um, and I was leaving at I think it was about 7:30 in the evening. And somebody stopped me and said, there's someone else that wants to talk to you. And I was like, I just want to get home to my family, right? But, she was just absolutely crying. And she says, I've always wanted to do, I can't remember, she was studying in a field that her parents encouraged her to study in. And she says, I want to move. I want to change. I want to do this. And you gave me the courage. You gave me the courage by, literally. And she couldn't stop crying. I was like, okay, just cry it out. I'll hug you. I'll help you. I'll help you. I'll do this. But the most incredible thing is about being in that flow. I was not tired. I had so much energy. Hours later, my day started at I think 4 in the morning, and I went to bed at 10 o'clock that night, but I wasn't tired. I just gained so much energy because I was operating in my uniqueness in a healthy thought process.
What a beautiful story. And thinking about, I just want to go back to where you started, right? Where you were born and how all of the things that brought you to where you are today. It is, I say this I think almost every episode, where we start and where we grow to are two very different things than where we are today in 10 years, 20 years. It's all going to be a different space because we're
Yes.
all learning and growing as long as we keep paying attention. And so it is, I love hearing the journeys. That's why I love doing what I do because you don't know what you're capable of sometimes. You just probably, I'm going to ask you this question. Did you ever think you'd stand on that stage or do the work you're doing right now when you were younger?
No. And it's funny you say that because I was that kid that would absolutely dread being called upon in class to read
Same,
out
same.
loud. It's like, don't make me do it. It's like, I'm going to fumble over my words. Everyone's watching me. I'm be so nervous. Public speaking was like, no. Professional speaking, definitely no. It's like, let me just hide in my corner and I'll be happy. And now it's like, I can't wait. I can't wait for the next talk that I'm going to do. It's like, I'm so excited. I get so much energy from teaching this information and sharing it.
We are so, it's interesting because that was me. I was if I could have hid under the desk, it was like, please don't pick me. Like I would sit there, right? And pray the teacher just would not, I would be invisible. I felt like I was invisible to the kids anyway, because I was so shy. I'm like, maybe the teacher won't see me. And every time I thought that, of course, what does she do or he do? They call on you.
Yeah.
But public speaking wasn't my thing either. And I understand what it's like because that feeling now of being on the stage, the energy and that connection, my whole
Yeah.
platform's connection, that connection it's just, and that's why you weren't tired. That adrenaline, that just, you get it, we get it from each other. We need that dopamine, but it
Yes.
needs to come from the positivity of sharing our uniqueness, not
Right.
conforming to someone
No.
else's.
No. No, absolutely not.
So what's next for you?
Um, that's very interesting. Right now I am looking to do another TEDx talk on uniqueness because I think I ended my first one on a cliffhanger. Basically, do you have the courage to discover who you really are? Right? And I want to share um, the difference this information made in amongst incarcerated youth at the Calgary Young Offender Center, where I was able to help my most destructive student transform his behavior because he understood who he was. From going from from looking like he was going to lash out at me to thanking me and giving him hope for the first time in his life, you know, that is honestly my next, I'd say, big goal. And in the meantime, I am, asking around mental wellness conferences, that sort of stuff, like, hey, here's an aspect of stress and burnout we haven't considered. Would you be interested in it? Because nobody looks at the fact that we cause stress to ourselves by trying to be someone we're not, looking for that external check mark that we are worthy, uh, trying to look for it in our behaviors. We're not our behaviors. We are our intangible drivers. That's who we really are, yeah, just throwing feelers out everywhere.
Well, because you want to, you have so much to give and so much to share, and you're in service. But those who are best in service are the ones who are so, I feel like, connected to who they are, because they can
Yes.
share how to find your way to that. It's a roadmap, and
Yes.
everybody's map looks very different. So
Exactly.
that's what's really 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 important. Is there anything else, because I can go on and talk to you for hours, is there anything else you wanted to share with the listeners that we've missed?
Um, I would say, you know, stop looking outside. Stop looking outside for that validation, that affirmation, be it even from like your parents, be it from your partner, be it from anyone else. There is so much value in knowing who you are, valuing yourself for your uniqueness, because ultimately you set the trend of how others are going to treat you. When you truly value yourself, you will know where to set the boundaries fearlessly. And the reason we feel guilty is because we're changing a pattern in our brain. But remember, we're doing it for a healthy reason. We're not trying to hurt somebody. It's like we want to put an end to the hurt. So, literally, stop looking outside. If you're going to get disappointed, you're going to get angry and frustrated if people don't value you for who you are. But that starts with you. Do you value yourself for who you are? Number one, do you know who you are? Number two. So discover who you are. There's a quiz for that. And then learn how to value it. Learn how to understand it, embrace it, communicate it with other people. Communicate it with other people so that they understand you.
Beautiful, beautiful. One more time, what's the name of your book?
It's called Beyond the Inner Critic, Understanding and Conquering Your Conscious and Unconscious Bullies. It's available on Amazon.
And your socials, one more time.
So Kalyani Pardeshi on Facebook and LinkedIn. On Instagram, I am at Kalyani Speaks 049. My website is kalyanispeaks.com.
Kalyani, I'm so excited we've met. You're part of the Changemaker family now, which I love. And I definitely want to have you back on for updates and things that you're doing. Let's not everybody forget to please watch her TEDx. It's wonderful. It's on your website. You said it's on your Facebook page, LinkedIn, so you can find it there. And anything else real quick?
People always say you should love yourself, but first of all, do you even know who you are in order to love yourself?
Yes, yes, yes. Love and like ourselves. We're not taught that in
Yes.
school.
Yep.
No, we're not. We're not taught that in school. And
Nope.
so I think it would be great if we started it there, and that way we didn't have to go through it, right? If we started there and had the
Exactly.
strength and the resiliency to be able to
Exactly.
have those skills when things come up, it's a trauma later on. I
You just
know.
gave me an idea. You gave me an idea. It's like, why don't I teach self-love in schools?
Mhm. Yeah.
That's a brilliant idea. Thank you.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. I'll say this last thing, and it's a program that I do run. And what you did is you sat at a table that didn't fit you. So you decided to create your own and invite others to join and have a voice. And so I say this, and this is a program that I am working on and creating, is that if you're at the wrong table and your voice is not being heard and you don't feel connected, maybe it's time to build your own and invite people to yours. So
Exactly.
yes, there's lots more we can do together, my friend. I'm so grateful to know you. And I'm going to say what I say at the end of every single podcast. Today is the day you cannot go back to yesterday, and you do not yet own tomorrow. So what steps, small or large, and we heard a lot, small and large today from Kalyani, are you going to take today, whatever it's going to be today, to get you closer to your goals? If you haven't, please follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Today is the Day Live It. Why is it so long? Because it's an action. We want you to live every day. It's important. We're given so few of them. And also, don't forget to subscribe to the Today is the Day Changemakers YouTube channel. And don't forget also to go to our website to learn more about some of the upcoming programs we have at todaysthedayliveit.com. Kalyani, thank you for everything that you're doing and all that you're sharing with the world, all these wonderful gifts. I really appreciate you. Have a great week, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.